What about the banks? How do you see them, the problems unfolding and how the banks are going to respond here? Are you of the view that the banks are solvent and safe, or are there still more issues with regard to the banking system?
Well, I think there's enormous issues for two reasons. Number one, I mean, when they went back to mark to fantasy rather than mark to market, I mean, you have a massive group of misvalued assets on the bank's balance sheet. So given how the leverage they've got, you would probably say most of them, if they really marked their assets to what they could sell them for today, they would be insolvent. But then there's the issue that doesn't get talked about maybe as much as it should, and that is the massive amount of derivatives that are through the entire system. And I mean, they revalued, or they changed how, the Bank of International Settlements changed how they valued them, in a sense that they sort of reduced the number and notional value. They'd be over $1 quadrillion now. And when you've got all of this through the banking system and the financial system, and they've never recognized the losing side of a lot of these trades, that, there's a massive problem. And that, I believe, is the underlying reason, the real underlying reason for the quantitative easing to the extent, I don't see it ending. I don't see how it can end unless they're prepared to take a financial debacle.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that they've never taken the losing side. About 8 years or so ago, a good friend of mine, we were chatting, he's a derivative expert, and I was talking about, somebody's on the winning side of a trade and somebody's on the losing side of a trade when you do a derivative. And he said to me, no, you don't understand derivatives at all. Both sides are on winning sides of that trade because of the way they account for it.
That's correct. I think sort of where this skirt got pulled back a bit was when Lehman failed, and then there was a sort of a counterparty that was going to force to sort of reveal
what the accounting losses really
were. And that was quickly papered over, and they've sort of pushed on. But I mean, the fact is
they haven't solved the problem.
Well, no, if anything, they've intensified the problem because there's more derivatives being created every day. I mean, we're not shrinking the pile of derivatives; they're growing. I mean, we changed the way we accounted for them, so they said there were less, but there aren't less.
Yeah. So it's not only the sovereign debt problem that's a sword pointed at the banks and their balance sheets, but the derivatives as well. And the derivatives isn't even getting the attention that the sovereign debt problem is getting.
Well, the sovereign debt is a problem, is sort of the flavor of the day. I mean, it is an extension of the banking problem to begin with. I mean, basically, the private sector couldn't carry the debt load, so they had to shove it more onto the countries. And this has created this sovereign risk problem, which is endemic. It's everywhere. I mean, I find, when people talk about, well, the euro's better than the dollar, well, I say, well, yeah, but is it? Like, I mean, the dollar's big problem is there's too many of them. They're creating so many of them, and they're throwing them out into the world. And the people that are holding them are becoming, as you know, extraordinarily uncomfortable. I mean, the Chinese are becoming very vocal on the subject, and they actually are taking action. They're not buying any more treasuries. And that forces Mr. Bernanke to monetize more of them, because where are the buyers coming from? Some of them are coming, I guess, from the banking system and what have you, but it's all a large daisy chain.
We should be taking a message from the Chinese, do what they're doing, actually spend those dollars and put them into resources, like their failed bid on Equinox and things of that nature?
Absolutely. I mean, Eric Sprott and I have been adamant on that point, that, I mean, this is not the time to be holding paper assets. It's got to be real.